I watched my mother stand in the middle of the backyard I'd played in as a child, addressing the family reunion like she was announcing a corporate merger. 53 relatives spread across the lawn, aunts, uncles, cousins, family friends, all gathered for what my mother had billed as a celebration, but was clearly something else entirely. David and I have made a decision, my mother, Patricia Thornton, announced, gesturing to my father who stood silently beside her. We're selling the house. The market's excellent, we can get $1.8 million, maybe more. We'll split the proceeds between our 3 children equally. Well, she paused dramatically, between the 2 children who actually care about family. She looked directly at me, her expression a perfect blend of righteousness and vindication. Alex gets nothing. He abandoned this family 5 years ago. Moved to Chicago, missed holidays, barely calls. Why should he benefit from a house he doesn't care about anymore? The crowd murmured agreement. My sister Lauren actually applauded. My brother Jason smirked. My Aunt Caroline squeezed my mother's hand supportively. I stood near the back of the crowd, next to someone my family hadn't bothered to notice. Margaret Ellis, my father's estate attorney and longtime family friend. We'd arrived together 15 minutes earlier, deliberately late, deliberately unobtrusive. I caught my father's eye. He looked pale, miserable, trapped. He knew. God, he knew exactly what was happening, and he'd let my mother walk into this moment anyway. I smiled politely and spoke loudly enough for everyone to hear. Dad, you really don't know, do you? My father's face went even paler. His mouth opened but no sound came out. Margaret stepped forward, pulling a folder from her briefcase. Hello, everyone. I'm Margaret Ellis, the Thornton family's estate attorney. I have some documents that are relevant to this conversation. My mother looked confused, then annoyed. Margaret, this is a family matter. It's a legal matter, Margaret interrupted smoothly. Specifically regarding the ownership of 2847 Oakwood Drive, this house. He pulled out a document. This property transferred to Alexander Thornton through an irrevocable trust on February 3, 2020. 3.5 years ago. Patricia, you don't own this house. You can't sell it. Alex does. The silence was spectacular. Then my sister Lauren started screaming, That's impossible. Dad, tell her that's wrong. My father just stood there, frozen, looking at me with something between apology and relief. Because he'd been carrying this secret for 3.5 years and now, finally, it was out. Let me take you back to where this really begins. Because this story isn't about a house. It's about a father who loved both his sons equally but only one son bothered to notice. Growing up as one of the Thornton children meant understanding the family hierarchy. Lauren was the princess. Beautiful, charming, married young to a surgeon, produced perfect grandchildren, lived 10 minutes away, attended every family event. Jason was the prince. Successful attorney, married to old money, perfect family photo, Sunday dinners without fail. Me. I was the black sheep. The one who went to Northwestern for journalism instead of law or business. The one who stayed in Chicago to work as an investigative reporter covering corruption and social justice issues. The one who came out as gay at 25. The one who chose meaningful work over lucrative work, authenticity over approval, purpose over profit. Alex has always been difficult, my mother would tell her friends, her voice tight with disappointment. Some children just don't appreciate what they have. The truth was simpler. I'd refused to perform the role they'd written for me, so I became the family disappointment. The one they loved but didn't like. The one they included but didn't approve of. But there was one person who never made me feel like a disappointment. One person who saw my choices as strength rather than defiance. My father, David Thornton. What nobody in the family knew, what my mother especially didn't know, was that Dad and I talked constantly. 3 times a week minimum. Hour-long phone calls where we discussed everything. My investigations, his concerns about the family dynamics, politics, philosophy, life. Your mother doesn't understand you, Dad told me during one call in late 2019. She sees your choices as rejection of her values. She can't comprehend that you're just being yourself. She treats me like I'm punishing her by living in Chicago. She treats you like you're punishing her by being authentic, Dad corrected. Lauren and Jason perform the roles she wrote for them. You refuse to perform. That's threatening to her worldview. He paused and I heard something heavy in his voice. Alex, I need to talk to you about something serious. About the house, about inheritance, about protecting you from what's coming. 2 weeks later, in January 2020, I flew to Connecticut for what my family thought was a regular visit. Instead, Dad picked me up from the airport and drove me straight to Margaret Ellis's office. Your father wants to transfer the family home to you through an irrevocable trust, Margaret explained. You'll become the legal owner immediately. He and your mother will retain a life estate, meaning they can live here until they both pass away. But legal ownership will be yours. I stared at my father. Dad, why? He pulled out a folder containing emails, text messages, and handwritten notes. Because I've been documenting something for 2 years, and I need you to understand what you're up against. The documents told a disturbing story. My mother had been planning for years to disinherit me completely. She'd consulted with attorneys about writing me out of the will. She discussed with Lauren and Jason how to fairly divide assets between the children who actually care about family, meaning them, not me. She's convinced herself that you abandoned us, Dad said quietly. She's rewritten history in her mind where you left because you didn't love us, not because you needed to be yourself. And she's determined that when we're gone, you won't inherit anything. What about you? Don't you have a say in the will? Legally, yes. Practically. He shook his head. Your mother handles all the estate planning. She presents documents for me to sign, tells me what they say, and I sign them because after 42 years of marriage, I've learned that fighting her on certain things isn't worth the battle. But Alex, I won't let her write you out of everything. This house, the house we raised you in, the house you grew up in, it should be yours. Why not split it equally among all 3 of us? Because your mother will find a way to exclude you from any standard inheritance distribution. She'll claim you abandoned the family, didn't contribute, don't deserve equal treatment. She'll pressure me to agree, and she'll convince Lauren and Jason it's fair. But if I transfer the house to you now, irrevocably, completely, she can't touch it. It's yours. Protected. Margaret interjected. There's another reason for the transfer now. Federal estate tax exemptions are generous in 2020. If David transfers the house to you as a gift now, it's below the exemption threshold. If you inherit it later through probate, there could be significant tax implications. This way is cleaner, simpler, and legally bulletproof. I looked at my father. What about Mom? Does she know about this? His silence was answer enough. Dad. She can't know, he said firmly. If she knows, she'll fight it. She'll claim I'm choosing you over Lauren and Jason. She'll make my life miserable and possibly find legal ways to challenge the transfer. But if it's done quietly, recorded properly, and kept secret until after I'm gone, there's nothing she can do about it. You're lying to her. I'm protecting you from her prejudice, he corrected gently. Alex, I love your mother. But she has a blind spot when it comes to you. She can't see past her disappointment that you're not the son she imagined. She's let that disappointment curdle into something that looks a lot like rejection. I won't let her rejection cost you your childhood home. He squeezed my hand. This house is worth about $1.6 million now. By the time your mother and I are both gone, it'll probably be worth $2 million or more. You're receiving this because I love you, because I'm proud of the person you've become, and because I refuse to let your mother's inability to accept you result in you being disinherited. What about Lauren and Jason? They'll inherit the investment portfolio, approximately $1.2 million split between them, plus our vacation home in Vermont, worth about $450,000. Combined, they're getting roughly $2 million to split. You're getting the family home worth $1.6 million now, probably $2 million later. It's approximately equal financial distribution, but Alex, the house is more than money. It's your childhood, your memories, your roots. It should be yours. I thought about the house. The oak tree in the backyard where I'd built a tree house. The kitchen where Dad taught me to make his famous lasagna. The porch where we'd sat countless evenings talking about life. The home that held every memory of who I was before the world told me who I should be. Yes, I said. I'll accept this responsibility. I'll protect it. We signed everything on February 3, 2020. The house transferred to me through an irrevocable trust. My parents retained their life estate. They could live there until both had passed. County records were updated. Everything was completely legal and completely documented. And we told no one except Margaret. From February 2020 to June 2023, I was secretly the owner of my childhood home. My parents continued living there. I continued working in Chicago, making $98,000 a year as a senior investigative reporter. I continued missing family holidays because of work obligations and because, honestly, being around my mother's barely concealed disappointment was exhausting. But Dad and I talked constantly. Our phone calls became even more important after the transfer. He'd update me on house maintenance. New roof in 2021, HVAC replacement in 2022, regular upkeep that I technically owned responsibility for but he handled. Your mother's getting worse, he told me during one call in late 2021. She started openly telling people you're not in the will. She actually told Aunt Caroline at Thanksgiving that, we're only leaving our estate to the children who care about family. Lauren and Jason were there. They didn't disagree. Does she know about the transfer? No. And she can't. Alex, I need you to understand something. When I die, which hopefully won't be for many years, your mother is going to try to sell this house immediately. She'll claim it's our house to distribute as part of my estate. She won't know it's already yours. You'll need to be prepared to reveal the truth, to show the documentation to withstand her fury. I can handle it. I know you can. That's why I trust you with this. He paused. There's something else. I'm updating my will to explicitly state that this house is not part of my estate because it transferred to you in 2020. That way, even if your mother tries to claim it, there's documentary evidence in my will itself that she has no claim. When are you going to tell her? Never, probably. I'm a coward, Alex. I know that. I should have stood up to her prejudice against you years ago. I should have made her accept you for who you are. I didn't. I took the easier path. Quiet phone calls with you, secret transfer to protect you, documentation to ensure your future. But not the courage to confront her directly about her treatment of you. Dad, you're protecting me. That's not cowardice. It's not bravery either, he said quietly. But it's what I can do. And when the truth comes out, when she discovers the house is yours, I hope you'll understand why I did it this way. In March 2023, my father was diagnosed with early-stage Alzheimer's. Not severe but progressing. The diagnosis terrified him, not because of what it meant for him but because of what it meant for the secret. We need to make sure the documentation is absolutely bulletproof, he told me during a lucid moment. As my cognition declines, your mother might try to claim I wasn't competent when I transferred the house. We need evidence from 2020 that I was completely sound. Margaret already had it. The neurological evaluation from January 2020, done specifically to document Dad's full capacity before the transfer. But we gathered more. Medical records. Testimony from his doctor. A video recording Dad made in February 2020 explaining his reasoning for the transfer in his own words. I'm doing this while I'm still clear, Dad said in the video looking directly at the camera. My name is David Thornton. Today is February 3, 2020. I am transferring my family home at 2847 Oakwood Drive to my son Alexander Thornton through an irrevocable trust. I am doing this of my own free will with complete mental capacity, after careful consideration and legal advice. I'm doing this because I love Alex and because I refuse to let my wife's prejudice against his sexuality and life choices result in him being disinherited. This house is his childhood home. It represents memories, roots, family history. It should be his, not sold off and split among children my wife favors. If you're watching this video, it means I'm gone or incapacitated and the truth is coming out. Patricia, I'm sorry I didn't tell you. But I'm not sorry I protected our son. Alex, I'm proud of you. Stay strong. By June 2023, Dad's Alzheimer's had progressed enough that he'd stopped fighting my mother on most things. He was still lucid much of the time, but the fire was fading. He'd retreat into silence during family gatherings while my mother dominated conversations. Which is how we arrived at the family reunion in June 2023, where my mother announced her plan to sell my house without knowing it was my house. The family reunion was my mother's idea, a celebration of family values and togetherness, that was actually a stage for announcing her inheritance plans. She'd invited everyone, 53 relatives spread across the lawn, all gathered to witness what she clearly thought would be a triumphant moment. I'd called Margaret 2 days earlier. Mom's planning something. She told Aunt Caroline she's settling family business at the reunion. I think she's going public with disinheriting me. Then it's time, Margaret said. Bring me to the reunion. Let her make her announcement. Then we'll reveal the truth with maximum witnesses. Your father wanted the documentation public to prevent family denial. This is our chance. So Margaret and I arrived together, deliberately late, standing at the back of the crowd as my mother made her dramatic announcement. We're selling the house next month and splitting the money, she declared. You get nothing, you abandoned us. The family agreed enthusiastically. Lauren applauded. Jason smirked. They were witnessing what they thought was justice. The wayward son finally getting what he deserved. Nothing. That's when I spoke. Dad, you really don't know, do you? The color drained from my father's face. He knew this moment was coming. For 3.5 years he'd been carrying the secret, waiting for the inevitable confrontation. Now it was here and he looked simultaneously relieved and terrified. Margaret stepped forward with her folder. She introduced herself, pulled out the transfer documents and dropped the bomb. The house transferred to me in February 2020, irrevocably and completely. My sister Lauren started screaming. My brother Jason went pale. My mother looked like someone had physically struck her. That's impossible. Lauren shrieked. Dad, tell her that's wrong. My father said nothing. He just stood there, frozen, looking at me with apology in his eyes. My mother found her voice. David, what is she talking about? Margaret answered for him. David transferred this property to Alex through an irrevocable trust on February 3, 2020. 3.5 years ago. He retained a life estate for himself and Patricia, so you both can live here until you pass. But legal ownership is Alex's. Has been for years. She pulled out more documents. Trust agreement signed and notarized. Property deed recorded with the county. Tax returns showing Alex's ownership. Neurological evaluation from January 2020 establishing David's full mental capacity. Video testimony recorded the day of transfer explaining his reasoning. Everything is documented, legal and irrevocable. My mother turned to my father, her face a mask of fury and betrayal. You gave him our house. Behind my back. Without telling me. My father's voice was barely a whisper. I gave him his childhood home. Because I knew you'd try to exclude him from everything. Because I watched you plan to disinherit him. Because I refused to let your prejudice cost him his birthright. Prejudice. My mother's voice rose to a shriek. He abandoned us. Moved away. Chose his career over family. Chose his lifestyle over our values. He doesn't deserve. He chose to be himself, my father interrupted, and there was steel in his voice now. He chose authenticity over performance. He chose meaningful work over lucrative work. He chose honesty over approval. And you labeled all of that abandonment, because he didn't perform the role you wrote for him. He looked at me and I saw love mixed with regret. Alex calls me 3 times a week. We talk for hours. He asks about my life, my thoughts, my health. Lauren visits twice a month for 20 minutes and spends the whole time on her phone. Jason shows up for Sunday dinner and talks about himself. But you praise them constantly while dismissing Alex because he lives in Chicago instead of Connecticut. I'm his mother. I know what's best. You wrote him out of your will. Dad's voice was stronger now, anger giving him energy. I've seen the drafts, Patricia. To our devoted children Lauren and Jason. Nothing for Alex. You consulted attorneys about how to legally exclude him. You told family members he was getting nothing. You tried to turn everyone against him because he had the courage to be himself instead of who you wanted him to be. My mother looked around at the 53 witnesses, realizing for the first time how public this confrontation had become. This is private family business. You made it public, I said calmly. You announced to everyone here that you're selling my house and splitting the money without me. You wanted witnesses to my exclusion. Now you have witnesses to the truth. Margaret pulled out one more document. This is David's video testimony from February 2020, recorded the day of the transfer. In it, he explicitly states that he's protecting Alex from Patricia's prejudice. Would the family like to watch it? No, my mother shrieked. Yes, my Aunt Caroline said quietly. She'd been watching the whole scene with growing horror. I want to see it. Margaret pulled out her laptop and played the video. My father's face filled the screen. younger, healthier, completely lucid, explaining exactly why he was transferring the house to me and why he hadn't told my mother. When the video ended, the silence was absolute. My Aunt Caroline spoke first. "Patricia, you've been telling us for years that Alex abandoned the family. But I just watched David explain that Alex calls multiple times a week while Lauren and Jason barely engage. You've been lying to us about the family dynamics to justify excluding Alex." My cousin Michael nodded. "I've been watching today. Alex is the one you've been attacking while Lauren and Jason smirk. I'm starting to think we've been hearing one very biased version of this story." My mother looked around desperately for support, but the witnesses who were supposed to validate her decision were now questioning her narrative. Lauren found her voice. "But the house is worth almost $2 million. We were supposed to split everything 3 ways. This isn't fair. You're each getting approximately $600,000 from the investment portfolio," Margaret said. "Plus you're splitting the Vermont house worth $450,000. Combined, you're receiving about $1.3 million to split. Alex is getting this house, currently valued at $1.8 million. The distribution is actually slightly in your favor financially, but Alex's inheritance has the sentimental value of being the family home. That's not fair." Jason protested. "What's not fair," I said quietly, "is planning to exclude me completely while pretending it's because I abandoned you. What's not fair is Mom rewriting history to make herself the victim of my choices. What's not fair is spending 3.5 years building a public narrative where I'm the bad son who deserves nothing." I looked at my mother. "I'm gay, Mom. I live in Chicago. I work as an investigative reporter covering corruption and social justice. These facts about me, facts you can't accept, became abandonment in your mind. But Dad saw the truth. Dad knew I called constantly. Dad knew I loved you both even when you didn't love who I actually am. Dad protected me because you wouldn't." My mother's face crumpled. Not with sadness. With rage. "You manipulated him. While his mind was going." "His mind was perfect in February 2020, Margaret interrupted. "The neurological evaluation proves it. The video testimony proves it. 3.5 years of clear, documented decision-making proves it. David protected Alex while fully competent. Your son didn't manipulate anyone. Your husband protected him from you." My father stepped forward, his voice tired but clear. "Patricia, I love you. But I failed Alex by not standing up to your prejudice earlier. This house was the one thing I could do to make sure he wasn't completely excluded from our family legacy. I'm not sorry I did it. I'm only sorry I had to do it in secret." The family reunion dissolved into chaos. Relatives arguing, taking sides, demanding explanations. My mother stood in the center like a general watching her army desert. I walked over to my father. "Thank you, Dad. For protecting me. For seeing me. For loving me enough to do the hard thing." He hugged me tightly. "I should have done more. I should have fought harder. I should have made her accept you. You did what you could," I said. "And it was enough." My mother didn't speak to me for 8 months after the reunion. Lauren and Jason sided with her completely, viewing me as the manipulator who'd stolen their inheritance. But something unexpected happened. About 30% of the extended family, cousins, aunts, uncles who'd been at the reunion, reached out to me privately. They'd seen my mother's fury, Dad's testimony, the video evidence. Many admitted they'd been hearing a biased narrative for years. Aunt Caroline became an unexpected ally. "I'm ashamed I believed Patricia's version without questioning it," she told me. "I watched you at that reunion. Calm, prepared, honest. I watched her, furious that she couldn't exclude you. The truth became obvious. My father's Alzheimer's progressed slowly. He had good days and bad days. On good days he'd call me and we'd talk like always. On bad days he'd forget about the transfer and ask if I was coming home for Thanksgiving. My mother eventually moved him to a memory care facility in late 2024. She still lived in the house. Her life estate ensured she could stay until she passed, but the irony wasn't lost on anyone. She was living in my house, unable to sell it, a daily reminder that her prejudice had cost her the control she'd craved. In early 2025, my father had a lucid moment during one of my visits. "Did I do the right thing?" he asked. "With the house." "You did the right thing," I assured him. "You protected me. You saw me. You loved me enough to act. I should have told her sooner. Stood up to her earlier. You did what you could when you could. That's enough. He smiled, squeezed my hand and drifted back into his fog. It's June 2025 now. 2 years since the reunion confrontation. My father is still alive but mostly gone to Alzheimer's. My mother still lives in the house, maintaining it carefully, probably dreading the day when her life estate ends and I decide what happens next. I visit Connecticut quarterly. I stay in a hotel, not the house. Living with my mother would be impossible. But I check on the property, handle major maintenance decisions, ensure it's properly cared for. Lauren and Jason still don't speak to me. My mother's silence continues. But I have my chosen family now. The cousins and relatives who saw the truth. Dad on his good days, my partner Marcus who I met a year ago and who understands family complications better than anyone. The house is worth $2.1 million now. I could sell it tomorrow. I could cash out, split the money with Lauren and Jason to buy peace, move on. But I won't. Because this house isn't about money. It's about the oak tree where I built a tree house at age 8. The kitchen where Dad taught me to make lasagna at 12. The porch where I came out to him at 25 and he hugged me and said, I love you exactly as you are. This house is every memory of being loved for who I actually am, not who someone wished I'd be. When my mother eventually passes, which hopefully won't be for many years, I'll decide then what to do with it. Maybe I'll move back. Maybe I'll make it a refuge for LGBTQ+ youth whose families reject them. Maybe I'll rent it to a family who'll fill it with new memories. But it will be my choice. Not made under pressure to be fair to siblings who supported excluding me. Not influenced by a mother who couldn't accept who I am. My choice, honoring the gift my father gave me. I visit his grave when I'm in Connecticut. He's not dead, but I visit the plot he and Mom purchased, the place he'll eventually rest. Thank you, Dad. I tell the earth that will someday hold him. Thank you for seeing me when Mom couldn't. Thank you for protecting me when I needed it. Thank you for proving that love isn't about approval, it's about acceptance. My father gave me more than a house. He gave me proof that I was lovable exactly as I was. He gave me evidence that choosing authenticity over performance was worth it. He gave me a father's love that didn't require me to be anything other than myself. My mother wanted to sell the house and exclude me from everything. My father gave me the house and included me in everything that mattered. He knew the difference. That's why he protected me. And that's the inheritance that actually matters.